See, I've been waiting. Waiting on that time. Feel me if you've been waiting on yours. That moment, it's close. It's close. Yeah.
Tired of living day to day like everything's alright.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Fighter's Block, the #1 fighting comedy podcast here in the world. My name is Joe Gilpin, King of Bong Style, joined as always by my main man, Mr. Jesse Rivas. How you doing this week?
Doing fantastic. You know what is great? This is a good podcast, but what it really is my therapy session.
A little bit. Would you like to? What's on your mind this week?
Oh,
No, this isn't a therapy session because you bitch and I don't get paid. This is just two dudes hanging out. Fuck that. You want to pay me, we can call this a therapy session, motherfucker.
well, because here's the thing. You know how many jobs I've worked at where nobody watches MMA or boxing? So I just have to live with the excitement on the inside, and I can't release it. It's not like, you know, when the Super Bowl happens, you could talk to any stranger on the street. But if you want to go up to your boss and be like, hey, you catching that Billy Joe Saunders versus Willie Monroe?
It's even more than that. What's worse is fans who know 1% about it. You know what I mean? Like, oh, that Conor McGregor, I bet he's going to get beat up by Roy Mayweather this weekend. Am I right, guys? Like, I don't think Roy Mayweather is a thing. But
Do you know how many people I've run into that call them Floyd Mayweather?
No shit. Like the Merriweather. Get it together, America. We're in the middle of one of the best boxing years of the last 20, 30 years. I mean, it's been unbelievable. And this week, we're going to get right, you know, we can talk about it. We're getting into another amazing stretch of boxing to close us out. I was worried about that. I was worried, because sometimes you'll be talking to a girl in a club, things are going well, some nice drink, she's a very beautiful girl. You go to dance with her, just no ass, no rear. There's no back end, you know what I mean? But this year has a back end like Beyonce. It's just not stopping.
And it's crazy because, like, I really said this, I think, a few weeks ago about MMA and boxing this time last year. It was opposite. Remember, one of your biggest catchphrases was, congratulations, boxing, you fucked yourself. You fucked yourself again. That was 2016. Yes, that was it. And then with MMA, it seemed like we're hitting like this new like utopia where everyone was talking about MMA. They were talking about Ronda. They were talking about Conor. The whole, like, the biggest fights were being made.
It was unbelievable. It was great. And we were seeing amazing quality fights. We were seeing the best fight the best. We were finding out really who was number one. Because that's what fighting is supposed to be. Who's number one. And we're going to find out this weekend who's number one in boxing again. There have been like 6 guys this year who've made a case for number one pound for pound in boxing.
One of the big things that we saw in January, though, were all the leading indicators were showing that there was nothing in the pipeline for MMA after Conor versus Eddie Alvarez. But in boxing, I mean, we had Joshua Klitschko lined up. We were talking about Errol Spence versus Kell Brook back then. We're talking about so many big fights being made, and now we're seeing more great leading indicators. And I dare to say that boxing is probably going to make a resurgence sooner than later. Just looking on what's coming down the stream.
Blessings up, prayers up. Please, please, please happen. But boxing is doing itself nothing but favors. Do you want to start with recap? Do you want to start with some special topics? Or do you want to launch right into a preview this week, Jesse Rivas?
You seem really excited about the preview.
I'm very excited about this preview. I think that's what people want to hear about.
Okay, let's go
Obviously,
preview.
We're going to do recap. You know, we're going to talk about there's some amazing stuff this weekend. But goddamn, how do we not lead off? We got to give the people the main event. It's about the people. Unlike 1999's The Rock. You got to give it to the people. This
is the fight that the world's been talking about for about 2 years. Everyone's been saying, when are they going to fight? If these two guys fight, it's going to be the biggest fight since Pacquiao versus Mayweather. This is the fight. It needs to happen ASAP.
A lot of stuff going on there.
Yes.
First thing I'm hearing is the size of the fight, the popularity of the fight. There's a lot of buzz about this in the fight community, as there should be. But is there enough for it to trickle out? Is this going to be a crossover appeal kind of fight? Jesse
No,
Davis?
I don't believe so.
Maybe in the Mexican community, right?
Yes.
Maybe in the Mexican community.
It's going to make a million buys.
Yeah, it'll crack 1 million easily. Canelo right now, he's the reigning boxing pay-per-view king. He kind of took over for Floyd when Floyd left. Obviously, Floyd came back, had his thing this year. But Canelo is still that guy moving forward. And Triple G is one of the few crossover athletes. These are actually 2 of the crossover athletes, I think.
But Triple G is still a 300,000 pay-per-view buy fighter, while Canelo is over 1 million.
Very, very true. But I feel like Gennady Golovkin, you cannot overstate the fact that these are two boxers that the ESPN crowd, I call them the ESPN crowd, who, they know like 5% about every sport, right? When
Yeah.
You remember I asked my brother, what are the fighters you know? Who are the boxers you know? I asked him right here on the podcast and read out his answers. He named Deontay Wilder. He named, I think he didn't even know Anthony Joshua. He named Canelo and he named Triple G. And that was really about it for people he knew. And that two of those three guys are heading into this fight. I think this fight might get a little bit more love than people are thinking. I think this is going to crack the 1.5 mark and be reaching up to the 2s.
This is one of those fights that actually sold by their fight styles.
Yes.
Neither character is particularly interesting. I mean,
damn. Just be mean to them. Listen, they're both ugly guys. Neither one of them can fuck. Both of them have small dicks. But this fight, guys, oh my god.
I mean, put it this. Canelo, when he was coming up, was trying to speak English. He was making an attempt to speak English. He doesn't even try anymore.
Gone.
He's like, do you know how rich I am? I don't got to speak your language.
I don't got to do shit anymore.
Yeah.
I don't have to take tough fights. I don't have to do anything. I'm going to show up, cash them checks. What? We're going to bring in a fat Chavez? Yeah, bring me in the fat Chavez. Please, let's do that.
And then you got Triple G.
Bring me the fattest Chavez you can. Make sure he's coked up the night before with hookers, and it's like he gets in trouble for it on Instagram. Perfect. Thank you.
Triple G has a little... He sounds like Borat.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Like, I try not to think of Borat, but...
No, when he speaks English, it sounds like... Have you ever, on Instagram, gone through, like, an Instagram models... And I say model very loosely. You know what I mean? Just, there's girls that their job is to have a huge ass on Instagram.
Yeah.
If you ever go through the comments of that, there'll be a lot of dudes who are like, oh my god, beautiful, I love you forever, long time. Will you come be my wife forever? Like, that's kind of how Triple G, I think, learned English. Like, was from just, like, Instagram comment on thought accounts. It's just 100%. It's how he talks, right? But you cannot overstate the fact that... Let's talk about it. We have the best offensive fighter and the best counter fighter in the game.
Do you know what's interesting? And I really wonder...
This fight!
Yes. But this is a side story of the fight. Do you know how many Mexicans are rooting for Triple G? There's shirts being made.
Well, he is the white Mexican.
There's shirts being made that says Mexicans for Triple G. That's a shirt that's being sold that a lot of people are buying.
Is that next to the blacks for Trump stuff?
Well, I mean, is he white though? Because, I mean, put it this. He's from Kazakhstan. His
Yeah.
mom is 100% Korean. And his dad is 100% Russian. So he's kind of mixed.
He's a mutt. There's a lot of mutt in.
And he fights like
Triple G.
Julio Cesar Chavez.
Yeah, and he calls himself, he's a Mexican style fighter. He is correct.
Yeah.
He is correct. And that still gets to me, like, every time that hits my ears, it's like, oh, he fights like a Mexican. That should be problematic, right?
And if you look at Canelo and you're Mexican, you look more like Triple G than you look like Canelo.
Oh, yeah. It's unbelievable. We have the most redheaded ginger Mexican. Do you know what's on the poster for this fight, by the way?
Oscar De La Hoya somehow?
No. It says on the poster, I swear to God, I can't believe this got through. It says Canelo, Golovkin, supremacy. Ooh, maybe not the right word right now in America, guys. I'll tell you. When a Mexican is fighting a white person in America, maybe let's avoid the word supremacy for a while. One of these men will hang from a tree in defeat.
I dare to say that racially, Canelo's way more white European than Triple G is.
Yeah, he's one of those. Yeah, he really, despite being such a huge draw in the Mexican community, it doesn't really play across like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not in the way that like a Chavez did.
Like I mean, he nationally is Mexican, but it looks like racially he's out of Ireland.
I love that we're just in like a light-skinned dude debate. You know what I mean? We're just about to do light-skinned memes. Let's talk about the fight a little bit. Golovkin coming off of a win over Danny Jacobs.
Yes.
That I think a lot of people... I've talked to a lot of people and a lot of fans. They're saying like, oh yeah, Golovkin steamrolled Danny Jacobs. That is not the fight I remember.
Whoa, we're talking to completely different boxing fans because the fans that I talk to say Danny Jacobs got robbed and he should have won the fight.
I've talked to half a dozen people that are... And, I've listened to podcasts and stuff... even on the, not to plug another podcast, but clearly we're superior, the Mario Lopez podcast, they were talking about, it's a really fun listen. People should give it a listen after they're done with us, to listen to the wrong opinions. They were like, oh yeah, he steamrolled him, dominated, and was never in trouble. No, that was a very close fight.
That was a very close fight.
That was, a 115, 113 kind of situation.
Yes.
Like, that was not a walk in the park by any means.
And
Danny
it's weird.
Jacobs is right there with these guys.
Because I thought there's some people that say that Triple G got exposed in that fight. And I'm like, no, he proved to me that he was great in that fight because I've always thought very highly of Danny Jacobs.
He earned this fight.
Yes.
That fight. If he had come in and obviously came in and lost this fight, would have been gone. But if he had ducked Danny Jacobs, I wouldn't be as excited for this fight.
Yeah.
Having seen Golovkin go through Danny Jacobs and knowing just how talented and skilled Danny Jacobs is, I'm way more excited for this fight. That said, Danny Jacobs did show some. He was the first one to show any problems in Triple G's game. Because everybody else,
Well, you can make an argument that Kell Brook did.
A little bit.
He just was too small.
He was just too small, and then got his face just reconstructed. Basically, his career ended.
Yes.
Let's say it. So we have that on one side. We have one of the best offensive fighters of this generation who just dominates everybody, and his boxing IQ is right there with it, versus the best counterpuncher maybe in the game today.
Yes.
In Canelo. I mean, 50 fights, 49 wins. I think he's actually 49-1-1. He has a draw in there, right? I think so.
Possibly.
Yeah. And then 40-0 for Golovkin. But Canelo has some of the best counter shots, great power, his speed is there. This is, oh my God, what a dream fight.
You know what's interesting is hearing Brendan Schaub and his boxing coach discuss working with Liam Smith.
We're just nothing but other podcasts these days. In This Corner with Brian Campbell, also a pretty good one.
Yeah.
I'm being honest.
It was interesting to hear them say that Liam Smith is a wizard in the gym. Like, there's nothing Liam Smith can't do. He has great power, great speed, accuracy. He's amazing. And they were like, that's what made them earn so much respect for Canelo, because Canelo wiped them out.
Yeah, okay.
Is there anything to that, or are we still going with...
I mean, we see who people are when they... There's a lot of people who are, gym wizards.
Yes.
I've trained with plenty of gym wizards. I trained with this one black belt in Virginia in jiu-jitsu. He's unreal. He's one of the best guys, maybe the best guy I've ever trained with in my life. Doesn't compete. Doesn't like competing. Does that mean he sucks? Or he's gone to competitions in the past. He just gets his clock cleaned. Competition is competition for a reason. It's the day you all agree, I'm going to show up and put my best foot forward. So I don't want to take gym skill into account.
So what do we say about Canelo on the other side? What do you thought of his recent opponents?
They've been trash. Like I said, he fought a fat Chavez. He fought Liam, who he beat the shit out of. Which, Liam's a fine opponent. He's a top 15-ish in the world kind of guy. But it's not a Danny Jacobs. Ever since Canelo became the pay-per-view king, Golden Boy has not been putting Canelo into danger. This is the first time he's really been in danger.
And the reason for that, and I think we did an analysis, a spreadsheet at one point, where I think it was 78% of the revenue comes from Canelo.
Yeah, for Golden Boy promotions. There's a lot of Golden Boy riding on this fight. Can you imagine? If Canelo wins this fight, you're not going to see him take another tough fight until we're voting for the next president. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be 3 or 4 years from now.
I mean, do you know what would happen if he were to lose? Oscar the Lawyer wouldn't be able to put his kids in private school. He wouldn't be able to afford all the cocaine and high heels he uses. It'll be a huge problem.
He's going to have to sell some of those wigs.
So, I mean...
But, he fought Amir Khan, who's a blown-up 140, not even 147, and, had a suspect chin 3 weight classes down, let alone up at 160, or where, they fought at 160, right? I think
160.
Yeah, Cotto, I guess, was, Cotto is Cotto.
Yeah, but Cotto's a little bit an older Cotto. It's not a prime Cotto.
Who was the last? I guess Lara would be the last really, really difficult fight. And Lara this week, by the way, has been very spicy, coming out and saying, "Oh yeah, Canelo's never going to lose in Vegas. They're never going to give a decision win to somebody over Canelo in Vegas. It makes too much money."
Here's my problem with Lara, and I love Lara, but this is something that I know from the boxing know. You know how he was calling out Triple G? Well, his own management leaked out that he wasn't willing to go up to 160. Now, how are you going to fight Triple G if you're not willing to go up to 160? He's not going to come down to 154.
Never in a million years.
Yeah. So, basically, you're just talking shit.
Basically, he's one of those dudes who, when he finds out, oh my god, Scarlett Johansson is single, is I guess I'm next. You know what I mean? Just talking shit on the internet to his boys. You didn't have the next number in line after this dude.
He's a weird dude to me because He trains with one of the Charlos.
Nobody has a first name that weird and is normal. His first name is Arizlandi. Nobody has an Arizlandi name and is like a normal, like, hey, what's going on?
He trains with one of the Charlos, and he's like talking about fighting the other Charlo. He's like, I'm going to unify this division. I'm only fighting the champions. We have a great guy in the gym who fights exactly like him. We can imitate him. We can.
Tigers only, guys. So yeah, I mean, Canelo has not been putting in the difficult, in the grind kind of.
Although
opponents.
he has for this fight, his body is completely transformed for this fight.
He's a thick boy.
Yes.
He's a thicker milkshake these days. He's gone up to 160 and he's looking pretty good there. I'm liking it. And Triple G is always going to be bodied up. Actually, Triple G, I think his weight. They were talking about his weight and they were like, oh yeah, like 2 weeks out, he was only like 4 pounds over. That's too much. You want to be a little bit more over. It might sound wrong to some people, but you want that weight cut to make sure you're as big and strong as possible. If your weight is low enough for too long, you're going to be sapping your own energy and sapping your own power over time. So the fact that he's not cutting almost any weight for this fight kind of almost, it makes me step back for a second. You know what I mean?
One of those things that you also have to remember is that he was preparing for a unification fight with Billy Joe Saunders at the time that this fight was signed.
And they're like, do you want actual money? We can get you actual money.
He was still going to go through and fight Billy Joe Saunders before Canelo, but they didn't want to risk a cut, an injury, or anything delaying. Yeah.
Yeah, don't fuck it up. That's what boxing has learned. Boxing is just like finally like, boxing is like that girl who's like 34, still kind of hot, is like been with a lot of shithead dudes, and she's just like, no more tricks. No more tricks. I'm not fucking with it. I've seen it all. She's seen all the tricks. She's off Tinder. She's onto the paid sites, the paid dating sites. She's looking for somebody to settle down with for life. And that's why I love boxing right now.
It's great. It's great. So going into this, who do you give the power advantage to?
Oh, it's got to be Triple G. He's a naturally bigger guy. When you see him next to each other through the arms, the joints, just everything about Triple G is just, it's like, it's all just 5% bigger.
And he's shown that if he touches anybody, they're going to sleep.
Yeah, and it's not the same way with Canelo. I mean, come on. Canelo doesn't have that fearsome power. He has power, to be sure. You know, he can put you out. Ask his last couple.
But he's
opponents.
not a one-punch knockout.
But it's not like, Jesus Christ, we got to plan for this dude's power every day in the gym. You know, it's a real chance you're going to get knocked out. Not really. You know, maybe.
He'll knock people out, but...
It's with your 100th punch.
Yes.
It's a couple hundred punches in. Triple G, I would not be shocked if Triple G is putting people down, not Canelo, but people down 30 seconds into a fight.
Yeah.
If Canelo did that, it would be a little bit more shocking.
Here's the tricky one, speed advantage.
Ooh, I'm going to give that to Canelo. I really like Canelo's speed. People always moving up in weight, his speed is going to transfer 100%. Especially, and I like, this is what I like the most about his speed. He's never out of position to give his speed and to work with his speed. Some guys who are very fast, they'll let themselves get out of position because they trust themselves to recalibrate a little bit more. Canelo is still pretty positionally sound all the time, which I like a lot. Especially with that counter style, he's going to need it. If Triple G can walk in and have the speed advantage, this fight's over. 100% over.
It's going to be interesting with that size. With the new size, will he lose speed? Will he gain some unexpected power? How do you think this new, bigger, thicker, more solid, almost like powerlifter body is going to affect him in the ring?
It's going to get him more Instagram followers, I'll tell you that. And thicker is always going to get you more Instagrams, more followers. How do I think it's going to affect him in the ring? A little bit more power, maybe a little bit. I don't think there's going to be anything shocking about this. I think we're still going to see a very reminiscent Canelo Alvarez. Saul, I call him, because we're good pals. We were born 4 days apart from each other. Did you know that? 4 days.
Doesn't it bug you when you see somebody that's your age accomplishing way more than you've done?
Yeah.
Given the same amount of days. And then you're like, well, maybe he had more advantages. And then you see like the shit poor village he was from, and you're like, fuck.
I don't know why we have to bring that up on the podcast.
Hey, I'm older than Canelo. Just FYI.
Yeah, it sucks. It really sucks. Yeah, Triple G, by the way, is 35. People don't remember that. He is coming into this a little bit older, especially after that extended amateur career that he had.
Yeah, he was a very accomplished amateur. He was one of those almost Lomachenko kind of guys that a few fights in, people were already talking about what he could potentially do. I remember when I first heard of him, it was when Sergio Martinez was champion. And you would always hear about this monster fighting in Europe, but he couldn't get the big fights. And
I bet.
Yeah.
I don't blame them. And then he came over here,
And then once HBO invested in him, I mean, the rest is history.
it's paid off big time.
So who do you got in this fight? Who do you got?
Looking at this fight, when I'm watching
Who do you
this
got
fight,
and how is a better way to phrase it.
Okay. What I'm looking for in this fight is I'm going to be very interested to see Triple G's game plan. I'm going to be interested to see if Triple G does walk Canelo down, if he tries to take space and cut off angles, or if he is happy to give exchanges. You know what I mean? I think whoever is the first to be able to start to string together combinations will take over the fight. And I would be surprised if we saw both these guys are so professional and both these guys are so skilled and so prepared. I don't think we're going to see big wild shifts in momentum like we've seen in other fights. I think whoever takes over stays over. I
don't know. I will bring up the Danny Jacobs fight. That was a shift in momentum.
That's true. That's a good point.
Although, did you hear what he said? Canelo told Triple G, he said, well, how are you going to knock me out? You couldn't even knock out Danny Jacobs. And then Triple G was like, no offense, you're no Danny Jacobs.
Damn. Spicy. And Danny Jacobs was like, oh my God, thank you so much.
You tell him, baby. You tell him.
I did do a good try. I like Canelo Alvarez in this fight. I think Canelo's going to be able to get to his combinations a little bit earlier. I like his speed to pay off down the stretch. And I think he is just that little 1% better.
What do you think the odds are in the fight? Who would you say is the favorite?
Oh, I think Triple G is the favorite because he has a more exciting style.
By what amount? What would you say?
It's got to be super close. Am I right? Is it super
It's razor
close?
thin.
Are we going like a negative 150 plus 155 kind of situation?
Canelo is plus 136.
Damn, I was close.
Yeah, it's super close. It's razor thin.
Yeah.
So I would expect even at fight time,
It might
Canelo
go
might be
40.
favorite. Yeah, Canelo might even be favorite. For this fight, man, 35 is a scary age. I've been watching boxing long enough that the ages, I start fearing for my favorite fighters at age 35 plus. Because it seems like the decline happens between 35 and 40 is when you're out of your prime.
That's when your testosterone levels really start to pull back a lot. It starts to happen, I think, for a lot of guys right around, depending on who you are, 28, 29, they're definitely not where they were, and then it's just a little bit down
Actually,
from
for
there.
boxers, I find that they hit their prime between 25 and 28.
So yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah, no, but I mean, like, they had, like, a big jump. So where they were before...
Oh, I see what you're saying. And then they enter their prime
They
at
enter their
28.
prime around 28.
Okay.
Like, Jermaine
okay.
Taylor, I think, was, like, 27, 28 when he started entering his prime.
A lot of dude science going on right now, by the way. A lot of, like, guys just talking out of their ass.
Yeah. But going into this fight...
For any MMA fans, I will say the boxing prime and the boxing window of your prime, you hit it earlier, and the window is shorter, I think, in boxing than it is in MMA.
Yes.
I think in MMA, you're going to mature later for whatever reason. I honestly...
I think it's the rounds.
I think it's the level of general athleticism. I think the level of athlete is higher in boxing at the upper echelon, top 5 level than it is in MMA. And I think that is the reason for that.
Well, I take it back to the Conor McGregor situation, where cardio plays such a huge part in boxing because you're going 12 rounds.
True.
So that
gas isn't a 15-minute. I mean, Conor is, always gassed. Conor's never been a guy to he gassed out against Nate Diaz in 6 minutes. That's 2 rounds in boxing.
True.
Come on.
So, I mean, for this fight, I think I'm going to go with Triple G just because if he touches you, it's a game changer. And that's always a danger, the fact that I know Triple G can knock out Canelo. I don't believe
Do
Canelo.
you though? We've never seen Canelo in that kind of danger.
True,
Ever.
but we've
Ever.
seen, I have reason to believe that if Triple G touches you, anybody goes down.
Yeah. Man, if he can knock out Alvarez, that would be
And
unbelievable.
I have to trust that Canelo has to box his face off for 12 rounds and not get hit.
I guess I am favoring Canelo's chin more than you are.
Yes.
I'm accepting that I think Canelo is going to be able to absorb a little bit of damage and return fire and build respect in those exchanges. That's going to pay off long term.
We've been disagreeing a lot in these fights lately.
I know.
That makes it exciting. You know what? Somebody commented on our podcast and said, I like it, but you guys agree on everything. I think lately we didn't do
That
it.
has not been the case whatsoever.
Yeah, we haven't
lately.
been doing that at all lately. They were like, yeah, it's too much of the same take. Well,
Listen, if we're right, we're fucking right. I don't know what to tell you. I'll tell you guys right now, all we figure out before each weekly podcast is just very vague topics. These are the fights we're talking about. These are one or two special topics we might hit on if we have time. That's all we discuss. We never discuss anything further than that.
The next fight that we're going to discuss, there you go, bum, 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 from our notes, is we have Billy Joe Saunders.
Oh, real quick,
the other,
decision or knockout? I have Canelo decision.
I got Triple G stoppage. I wouldn't say knockout, I'll say stoppage.
Dope.
Now, these are the real middleweight champions, but they have 3 of the 4 belts, but there will be a 4th belt defended, not on this card, but on a separate card over in the UK earlier in the night. It is Billy
Guys,
Joe
we're here
Saunders.
too. What a fucking night to have your fight, by the way.
Yeah, Billy Joe Saunders, the man who was supposed to unify with Triple G before a bigger payday got in the way, is going to be fighting against Willie Monroe Jr.
Before it was just like, nah, man, I found a way hotter girl. I'm sorry. You're out. I don't know what to tell you.
You know, it's funny, 2 years ago, Billy Joe Saunders was like the hottest prospect in boxing. He had that amazing fight with, what's his name? Andy Lee.
Andy Lee, yeah.
He ended Andy Lee at the top level.
Yeah, which I thought was unfair because that was a really good fight.
Yeah.
It was like, I think one judge even had a draw. Like, I think it wasn't even a unanimous decision. So I thought that was a little, like, Andy Lee really took a hit off of losing his belt there.
And Eubank Jr., he had that phenomenal fight with Eubank.
Yeah.
So he was looking fantastic. And once he won the belt, he got plagued with injuries.
That was one of the first fights, Billy Joe Saunders, to interrupt you like I always do.
Yeah.
Billy Joe Saunders versus Chris Eubank Jr. was one of the first fights where I was like, damn, England is starting to look really good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it was kind of like the up-and-coming guy. The 2 up-and-coming guys had like this phenomenal fight.
That wasn't just like exciting British brawler style that I was a little bit more used to, that we kind of used to see. It was very technical and exciting.
And it was big without the U.S. attention.
Yeah.
It had no U.S. audience, but everybody was like, that's the fight. That was a great fight. Both of those are amazing. And we were like, what channel was that on?
Yeah.
That wasn't on HBO or Showtime? Are you guys leaving us out of boxing? Because we used to run boxing. Like, can you bring it back, please?
Can you please gentrify us again real quick with this boxing knowledge?
Yeah. But, yeah, Billy Joe Saunders looked fantastic, but then he got injuries. Then, apparently, he had motivation issues. And then he took time off.
He was mad pussy.
And then he took time off because his good friend Tyson Fury went crazy.
What a sentence.
The heavyweight. How weird is that? Like in 2015, Billy Joe Saunders was champion, and his good friend Tyson Fury were both world champions. And the gypsy community was going crazy. Or travelers, excuse me. I didn't mean to be politically.
We are not supposed to say gypsies.
Yeah, they can call themselves that. We can't call them that.
Do they even listen to podcasts? They're too busy traveling, right?
Yeah, they're in their caravans. Yeah.
Where
So
the fuck are you traveling to? If you don't have an end date, you're not traveling. You're just homeless. I'm sorry. Like,
They're
I know
nomadic.
it's problematic. Okay, say that. You're nomadic is okay, but like traveling assumes like an itinerary and like you're gonna like Airbnb when you get there.
they just have the caravans and they just box and they
Makes
fight.
no sense.
So, you know, they were on top of the world, and now, like, Tyson Fury's, like, gone, and Billy Joe Saunders has to, like, kind of rebuild his career because the only thing we saw from him since he won the title was a terrible performance against, a gatekeeper.
Yeah, a Russian guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was not a good performance. But he's been motivated now. I don't know if you've been seeing the build-up for this, but he's been talking
Oh,
mad
he looks
shit.
good on Instagram? Wonderful. I'm sure he's back. Damn, you didn't... Hold it, Jesse. You didn't tell me he was looking good on Instagram. If that's the case, this changes everything.
I mean, he's been trying to get big fights. So first he was trying to fight Triple G, but that fell through.
Sure.
Then he was supposed to fight against Lemieux. This is supposed to be Lemieux versus Billy Joe Saunders, but Lemieux got a shoulder injury. So we have Willie Monroe, the next biggest name we have there. So
Lemieux, who still lost his soul against Triple G.
Yeah.
That one time.
But here's the problem, though. This is a better Willie Monroe than the one who fought Triple G.
True.
Because back then, there was even debate if it was too much too soon for him. But he wasn't getting any big fights. After he fought Darnell Boone, who's like the Jeremy Horn of boxing.
Yeah.
So-
straight up journeyman. Fought him too early, right?
Yeah.
So like 2 fights too early.
Like,
for him.
people who Darnell Boone has beaten have gone off to have great careers. It's just are you ready? Fight Darnell Boone. Let's find out if you're ready or we got to pull back.
And they had to pull back a little bit.
So once he had that, I didn't know this, but his team left him. So he was training out of a garage.
Damn!
Yes.
Those hoes were not loyal.
So he went I've been seeing the buildup, and he was like crying about like, yeah, he had nothing. So he had to take the Triple G fight to kind of put his name back out there.
Sure.
And he's been looking good ever since.
What a walk to the ring. Damn, son. All right, I'm going to go. This Kazakh murderer is going to push my asshole in. But after that, I'm going to make some money. And he is.
Yeah, he's been doing well.
It's working out. Yeah, he beat homeboy Gabriel Rosado.
Yeah. And he looked great against him. He completely outboxed him. So going into this fight, there's been a lot of drama, a lot of trash talk. I've seen the most motivated Saunders ever, and I've seen the most motivated Willie Monroe ever. Based on what you've seen of both guys, how do you see this fight going?
Boy, trajectories, Billy Joe Saunders is trending down a little bit, right?
Yeah.
You know, from the Andy Lee win, that was 18 months, 2 years ago, really,
Yeah.
at this point. He's had one fight and he looked like shit in the meantime. And, Billy Joe Saunders is still late 20s. He should be hitting it hard right now. Like we were talking about. He's really, he just entered that prime. Willie Monroe, by the way, trending upwards. I think I favor Willie Monroe by a little bit, right?
A lot of people are favoring Willie Monroe in this one. They're calling upset, but here's the thing. It's going to be in the UK. It's going to be in England.
And they don't like black people.
It's going to be a tough one.
That'll be difficult.
Did you hear what Billy Joe Saunders said to the interviewer who asked him? Because apparently, like, he loves hookers and he's like really open about liking hookers.
Sure.
So the interviewer asked him. He was like,
Wait, who doesn't?
He's like,
who hates hookers? Either you don't use hookers or you love hookers. There's no one who just like isn't into hookers.
So they asked him. They said, so when you win this weekend, what type of hooker are you gonna celebrate with? And he was like, I'm gonna go American. Willie Monroe's mom.
Oh no! I hope Willie boxes his fucking nose off, dude. You say that shit, you get your fucking head beat in. Fuck that. That's very rude.
Yeah.
But yeah, give me Willie Monroe.
And then they interviewed him about that later, and he's like, yeah, I said it. I put it out there. Do something this weekend.
Great. Hey, by the way, way to sell the fight.
Yeah.
Now I'm interested. I'm not gonna watch. I'll be busy. Oh no, it's earlier in the day though.
Yeah.
If it's in the UK.
It's like at like 4 p.m.
Dope.
Yeah.
A little amuse-bouche of not to be cultured and shit. Amuse-bouche of boxing before I get into my main event.
Yeah. So we also have more boxing from Europe. We have the World Boxing Super Series going on. Have you been following this World Boxing Super Series?
Very vaguely.
Okay. So it was the brainchild of Richard Schaefer, who's famous for a lot of the Mayweather fights. He's famous for Golden Boy. He's basically the guy who used to run Golden Boy during his prime when it had Barrera and it had all like the big names, and De La Hoya was fighting Mayweather and they had Bernard Hopkins. That guy.
Sure.
So the guy who was making all the money, so they didn't just depend on Canelo. He's come into this fold and made this $50 million tournament, 2 weight classes, and it's has a full season going on. So the way that it works is they put you on the stage like a bachelor. Like, you've seen the show The Bachelor?
Sure.
Okay, so
I haven't, but let's say yes
Okay.
because I like you.
So they line up.
I don't want to troll you right now for having watched The Bachelor.
It's so gay. It's hilarious. I was watching it. I was watching it, and the whole.
I want to dissect that sentence.
Okay.
Because we're gonna get tweets.
Okay. So basically, the way that it works is they have this big gala, right?
Listen, by the way, I just want to throw out there. I don't. We here at the Fighters Block Podcast, the views of Jesse Reeves don't necessarily reflect the views of Fighters Block Podcast LLC.
No, I don't mean that the Bachelor is gay.
Walk it back. Okay.
I'm saying that the gala that they had for the World Boxing Super Series, where all the boxers had to dress up in nice tuxedos and they had to choose who they're going to fight and explain to the interviewer why they chose that person, did seem a little gay.
It's a little gay.
Especially, yeah.
Listen, I'm being honest.
Especially
it kind of sounds like a fuck auction.
It's look like that because.
By the way, I'm gonna do one of those. Did I tell you about this? I'm gonna do like somebody, a comedian friend of ours is setting up apparently for a bunch of comedians a bachelor's auction.
Oh,
and,
nice.
Asked me specifically, and I feel great about my chances because most comedians are fucking slobs.
Yes.
I will be the only one up there with abs. I guess it's gonna be a fucking cakewalk.
Yeah.
I don't know what we're raising money for. ISIS? I don't know. I haven't asked.
I was gonna do one of those, and then I got in a relationship, and I couldn't do it. So there goes that.
Bummer.
But yeah, so this is gonna be a fantastic fight. So going World Boxing Super Series. That's where we're at. Boom, back to it. So what happens is the 4 top ranked fighters,
they all fuck 4 other guys.
they choose the other 4, and they choose who they get to fight, and it's hilarious because when they get
You almost
chosen,
said fuck. I swear to God, you almost.
when they get chosen, it's hilarious to be like, it's such an honor to be chosen by you. Like it was literally like that, and it didn't make it
There
seem.
should have been, by the way, there should have been 4 guys to choose fighters and like 5 guys to be chosen. So one dude had to stand up there and not be chosen.
That would have been hilarious. Like they just threw in Arthur Abraham.
Yeah,
and
Arthur Abraham is just like, guys, I used to be a world champion. This is bullshit.
How do you feel about not being chosen but just receiving the rose?
bad? Feel bad?
What's great about the show was everyone spoke different languages, so they couldn't really communicate that well. So some people just get frustrated and speak whatever language they speak instead of English.
I don't know. He told me Dos Vidania. I think that means he wants me to win. I don't know.
But that's what we saw last week. Usyk fought. Usyk fought against Hook. Well, this week in the World Boxing Super Series,
Super duper series, more like. Are you
we're gonna get Callum Smith, the brother of Liam Smith and Steven Smith, versus Eric Skoglund from Sweden, who's like this top level prospect. They're both really prospects, to be honest. And of course, the winner of this is gonna, be in the tournament, get multiple titles. So this is a big opportunity for both of them. But this is a fight that a lot of people have been anticipating. So it should be a good one for anyone who out there looking for a good fight to watch this weekend.
Dope. Callum Smith probably going to carry
Yeah, I think Callum Smith is gonna win this one. But it should be a very entertaining fight.
with that famous luck.
Yes.
The famous Lucky Smith. What if he's just like wildly unlucky? Like his shoes, he keeps like tripping on his shoelaces.
He's the most talented Smith brother.
He's the best. No, he is
Yeah.
the most but he's not the highest paid one.
No.
But if he can do well in this boxing super series, it will pay off very big for him.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about the
UFC.
No, I actually want to say, do you want to transition and do a wonderful segue to talk about the Usyk fight? Because that was part of the super series.
Yes. So this past weekend we had Alexander Usyk. I don't know, call him Alexander. I know a lot of people try to like, how would you feel it if you went to other countries if people just called you, like you went to a Spanish country, they called you Jose instead of Joseph?
Honestly, as long as they're being nice to me. Anytime, as a white person, anytime a brown person is talking to me and not yelling, I feel great about myself. It means I'm doing well. You know what I mean? That's why I started this podcast.
So I call
just to say I have Latino friends.
So I call him Alexander. Alexander Usyk fought against Captain Hook. Captain Hook. I think that's why he went there, because he wants to pronounce it Hook instead of Huck.
Sure.
Even though it's spelled like fuck, but with an H.
Okay. You're looking at me like I have like an answer to give you? Yeah, that sounds right.
So what it is 2 weight classes. So we just talked about the super middleweight boxing series. This is the cruiserweight boxing series, which was the easiest one to get done because they had the least amount of politics and the most amount of good fighters with no international big mainstream names. So it's a good opportunity for everyone. It's a win-win. It gets everyone their names out there. It gives everyone great fights, and it was really easy to do with the promoters. So you got the absolute best. The winner will be a unified, undisputed champion.
Have you ever just met that girl on Tinder who was like, yeah, let's meet up? Within like 6 messages, it's just like, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what this was like.
It was one of those moments. For those that don't know who Hook is, he was the number 1 cruiserweight for a long time. He set the record he tied the record for the most defenses. He had the second longest title reign. He's only 32 years old. He has like this big historic career. He actually beat Lebedev, who was the other cruiserweight champion. So he has a fantastic career, but he got completely outboxed by Alexander Usyk. This was a one-way destruction and eventually got stopped. It leads people to believe, has the level of competition in cruiserweight just increased? Is Usyk just that damn good? Has Huck gone down some, or is it a combination of all 3?
We're probably looking at a combination. If I had to guess, the level of cruiserweight, I do think it's almost hard to say it's rising, especially when you have, what's his homeboy, British dude with the pot tits from Creed. He's a cruiserweight champion.
But he's not the best though. If you look at this, you look at this tournament, you really, I've seen the highlights and I've read up on the guys. I can't remember all their names, but trust me, when they fight, I will know how to say their names.
We're gonna bring you that fucking good stuff.
And they're Eastern European, and those are usually the toughest names for me to pronounce.
I can get you there.
Yeah.
I can get you there.
But you're seeing some absolute beast in this weight class, and I think the level of talent has just increased a tad bit. Because Marco Huck has lost to the number 1 and number 2 so far, but he also lost to Glowacki. So,
which is a little bit of Glowacki is gatekeeper adjacent.
But the only reason we think he's a gatekeeper is because Usyk destroyed him.
So maybe Usyk is just like
guy. Because Glowacki's gone on to win all his other fights besides the one with Usyk.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So it's like maybe this guy is like the Lomachenko of the higher weight classes.
I'm into it. I believe it.
And
but that's, you know what this is? This is an endorsement of the tournament because we're going to find out. Everybody's going to get their level exposed eventually in this tournament. We're going to find out how good each of these guys are.
And let's not forget who Alexander Usyk beat.
I'll tell you, he's not listening.
Do you know who he beat to win the 2012 gold medal in the Olympics?
Please.
Beterbiev.
No shit.
Yes.
Damn, I knew Beterbiev. I go Beterbiev.
Beterbiev?
I knew he was a silver medalist. I didn't realize it was to Usyk.
Yeah, it was to Usyk. So he's a very talented guy.
That gets my fight pussy wet. I might go find that fight.
Yeah.
Sometimes you hear about an amateur fight, you're like, I need to go check this out. Even though like amateurs, especially like back then, was like a little bit more whack with the headgear and all that. But that seems like a fight worth checking out. So that's another super series. People should be checking out these super series. It's like it's these big G1 climaxes, and I'm climaxing all over.
Yeah, and you know what? I love the fact that they have the best fighting the best. Like, I absolutely love that. Like, super middleweight, you could make an argument that there's some super middleweights that didn't make the tournament because of politics. But in the cruiserweight division...
You didn't make it because you sucked.
Yeah, all the absolute best are fighting the best.
It's wonderful.
In each stage, yeah.
Where do you want to go next?
Do you want to break down... Do you want to go ahead and recap preview the UFC, or do you want to go and recap some boxing?
Let's preview the UFC, knock out the rest of the previews, and then move along.
Okay, so
There's
have...
really only, I think, one fight worth breaking down.
Rockhold versus Branch?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because the other one that was worth breaking down, Alves versus Perry, got canceled.
What?
Yeah, Thiago Alves pulled out. Speaking of pulling out, let's talk about Ray Borg real quick while we're here.
Yeah.
Speaking of pulling out, my father. Clearly not. Clearly not. At least once. Ray Borg pulled out of his UFC title fight with Demetrius Johnson this week. The doctor would not clear him after finding out how sick he was.
How many pay-per-view buys do you think they lost on that?
Absolutely zero. Apparently more people bought it. Did you hear that? When they found out that Nunes versus Shevchenko was the main event. When they started just putting out there like, hey, they started sending out those emails like, hey, Amanda Nunes is main eventing this pay-per-view. People started to buy it more. Because she is more of a star. People don't realize this. Amanda Nunes. Oh, you mean that girl who knocked out Ronda Rousey? You mean that girl who beat the shit out of Miesha Tate in the main event of UFC 200 that you guys marketed to crazy death? Do you mean the first openly gay champion in UFC history? That one? The girl who knocks out fucking everybody and fights exciting literally every single time? That girl?
Except for this time?
Except for this time.
Yeah.
Listen. I'm talking about the marketing. Ray Borg was selling zero pay-per-views. Ray Borg was selling to like the family of Ray Borg. They might not have tuned in because of that, but that's all you were really losing.
Yeah.
But we're seeing so many more pullouts in the UFC.
Yes.
It has to be drug testing, right? It has to be. People can't use the same stuff.
Well, I will say this. Not a lot of grown men can make 125.
True. Tell me about it.
Yeah.
As somebody cutting weight right now. But people were making it a lot more consistently, I think, before the weight cutting rules. Because now you can't even use an IV to hydrate yourself. A lot of the drugs people are using to cut weight are gone. A lot of those diuretics are out. People are really having to fucking pull hard to 125. And because of that, there's just really not that many guys that size that are skilled enough to take on.
So why did Alves pull out?
I think something along the same lines, because you gotta remember, Thiago Alves to make 170 in his late 30s at this point, that's a pull. That's really, really difficult.
He didn't make weight when he was fighting Matt Hughes back in the day.
Oh yeah, he always fucked himself.
Yeah.
And Mike Perry, by the way, dropped a fucking mixtape. He sheathered Thiago Alves about like, I don't believe you, or
Well, Mike Perry's a douche.
Mike Perry's the worst.
Yeah.
Loved by women.
Oh yeah. He looks like if George Michaels could fight.
Oh no, Elvis dropped. I remember why Elvis dropped out, and it's because of the hurricane. He's like, yeah, my whole team is stranded because of Irma, and nobody can make it out, and just my entire thing is, fucked up. I almost feel like you have to buy it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you don't know, and it really did fuck up a lot of stuff down there. Most people are still without power. You kind of have to just be like, okay, well,
Okay.
I'll catch you next time.
So Rockhold versus Branch then.
Rockhold versus Branch. I mean, that fight.
This
better
is a
sell.
crossroads fight because Branch, he fought in the UFC. He was just like, but then went to the World Series of Fighting.
You're saying he was mediocre.
Yeah, he was so mediocre. And then he went to the World Series of Fighting and became a beast. He became the double champ, 2-division champion. And then he came
And
back.
he beat good guys.
Yes.
Beat Yushin Okami. Beat a lot of really tough guys in the World Series of Fighting.
And
a
then
little bit of a washed Yushin Okami. But
Yeah.
still.
I mean, yeah, but then he came back and he looked,
Yeah,
So,
again, immediately
yeah.
they put him in with oh man, I can't remember the guy's name, but they put him with like the 15th ranked guy in the division.
10th.
The 10th ranked guy in the division, and he really he won 3 rounds by like a punch. You know what? He just barely eked out each one. So who are we giving him next? The murderous former middleweight champion, Luke Rockhold.
Who hasn't looked
Formerly
good.
murderous.
Yes. He's been sleeping in silk sheets. I mean, since he became champion, he lost to a guy who had previously dominated. He tried to become a model, and he's a model for a UFC fighter. But when you compare him to an actual model, he's not exactly that
It's
pretty.
like when Conor went over to boxing. You know?
Yeah.
Like, you have good boxing for MMA. Like, yeah, you're an attractive man for an MMA fighter. But it's like hot girl in small town syndrome. You know what
Yes.
I mean? Okay, yeah, you're a 10 in Duluth. And if you're going to New York City, you better be ready to live as a 4 for a little while before you learn how to do your makeup right. Because it's not okay.
And then he's been is he still dating Demi Lovato?
I don't know. Demi Lovato just got her blue belt, by the way.
Yeah. But he's been banging Demi Lovato.
He was banging Demi Lovato.
Like that's
So he's banging at that upper
the
echelon
highest
yeah.
level of the highest level. So how do you go from all that to training camp?
Living in San Diego does help. Being at AKA.
But all his training partners are gone.
Yeah, true. Well, Cormier's still around.
I guess.
From time to time.
I guess. But I'm sure Cormier's been gone
Light
after.
heavyweight champion of the world, which we'll talk about in a second.
Yeah.
So I think that you're overblowing things, if I'm being honest. I think Luke Rockhold, I think you're being sold marketing material, honestly. Because Luke Rockhold was the #1 middleweight on earth not very long ago. You know, he had knocked out Chris Weidman, brutalized Chris Weidman. Do you remember the ground and pound he put on Chris Weidman?
Because of a kick, though.
Yeah, but it was still a close fight before that.
Yeah.
And he was still doing very well. Do you remember him choking out Lyoto Machida and making Machida
An
look
older
very
Machida.
old? Yeah, come on. Beat Michael Bisping before then. Beat the shit out of Tim Kennedy. Back when Tim Kennedy was super relevant. He has good wins. Beat Jacare. Let's not forget that back in the day. This guy is a guy with really good wins, and he has unbelievable MMA jiu-jitsu. He has incredible striking. His range, his physicality, everything on him is good. He's passing the right drug tests. He looks good on Instagram, which is very important. Get your Instagram likes, my guy. He came in to fight Michael Bisping, had his hands by his hips, and got knocked out. If that doesn't happen, we're talking about Luke Rockhold in a top 3, top 4 pound-for-pound type of situation. Not does he still have it. And so I think Luke Rockhold is still that guy. Until proven differently. It was one punch and one very dumb game plan in a title fight.
And if he loses this weekend, it's not going to matter because no one's going to watch this fight.
Oh, yeah, we could just lie to people.
Yeah.
No matter what happens. Those articles are already written.
Yeah.
And Dave Branch, I mean, he looked like absolute shit in his last fight. And I have no reason to think he's going to suddenly turn it on for Luke Rockhold. You know what I mean? He's not a lights-on kind of guy. It looks
He is 35 as fuck, though.
Yeah, and I like David Branch a lot. I remember, before his last fight in the UFC, I was really on top of like, oh my god, Dave Branch, I'm really excited, everybody should watch. And then he fought Jotko. That's who it was, Krzysztof Jotko.
Yes.
And he looked like dog shit the entire time. So I don't know if it's UFC jitters or what's going on with that, but he steps into that octagon and he does not do well. So I'm going to predict him to lose by TKO in this fight within the first 2 rounds.
You think that's what it is? Do you think it's mental focus, or do you think just the level is different?
I think it's mental focus because he was beating very good people outside the UFC. Beat Yushin Okami, beat Vinny Magalhaes, who is very, very good. Beat a lot of UFC vets outside the UFC.
What would you say the odds are for this fight?
For this fight,
Yeah.
Luke Rockhold has to be favored like a motherfucker.
Yeah, David Branch is a plus 410.
I was going to guess, is Rockhold like in the -5s?
Yeah,
-500s?
-525.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Joe knows his fucking odds. So that's my prediction. Do you have a prediction for this fight?
You got to go Rockhold.
How do you not, right?
Yeah.
Even like,
It's
Mama
a good.
Branch would tell you like, this
It's
is
a good
tough.
fight to come back to, though.
Yeah, very much so. Top 10 guy. You know, this is maybe the UFC getting this fight is kind of like, are you still into this kind of a fight? How do we handle this? It's like when Gustafsson came back and they gave him a fight against Manoa. Like, hey, you still like doing this, right? And then he knocked him out. I was like, okay, yeah, he's back. Do you want to talk? We touched on it a little bit. Amanda Nunes versus Shevchenko.
Yeah, how did you score it?
I had it 3-2 Nunes.
Me too. That takedown was the big difference maker.
It really was, right? There's the first fight that Shevchenko in the UFC has not been able to score a takedown, and it really came back to fuck her. Really, really bad.
I'm going to come out and say this, and it may sound controversial. Shevchenko's sexy as fuck. I just want to go ahead and put that out there.
Okay.
Have you seen her when she's like not training, when she's like just...
I haven't.
Dude, she's got some beach pictures. I got
She got
interested.
dumps like a truck.
Yeah, I got interested because like I saw her like in some Peruvian TV show. Like, you know how like they have like a model in the back.
Wait, before then, why are you watching Peruvian TV? Was it strictly to watch Valentina Shevchenko?
Well, one thing that I saw was they were putting her as like, you know, like the hot chick who dances in the background.
Okay.
She was the hot chick that was dancing in the background, but it was just Valentina Shevchenko.
What? No.
Because when she's not training, she just has like a girl body.
She's just a thought? What the fuck is that? Yeah, you're going to lose the decision. You're not focused. Can you imagine?
And then there's like a bunch of like stuff of her like being...
Yeah, and Amanda Nunes is out just like hunting with wolves, ripping the throats out of gazelles in the woods, which is where gazelles obviously live.
But you also got to remember, she's in Peru. She lives in Peru.
Which is very weird.
And she's a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white girl. She is worshipped like a goddess.
Oh, I bet. They bring her just offerings all day.
Yeah.
I scored it 3-2. I had the... do you think Shevchenko should really be this mad about the fight? Because I've seen very close title fights before, but I don't know if I've ever seen somebody stomp around for like a week afterwards.
I mean,
talking about
she's
how
got
they
to be
got
more
robbed.
aggressive.
There was points in that fight where it was like, if you push this issue right now, if you even just shoot for the takedown, get her up against the cage, you're probably going to win this round. But she just left too many rounds as just a coin flip to get mad about. If you leave it as a coin flip, you're going to lose half of them. I'll tell you right now.
Yeah.
You know, especially against a champ that people know hit hard as fuck. Because that does matter to judges. When a judge sees that Amanda Nunes knocks everybody out, and Shevchenko really doesn't.
But here's one thing I will say. You know, even though, you know, Amanda Nunes has that nice olive skin, she still was all bruised up in the face. In comparison to...
She also took a beating, for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm saying from the judge's mind, a 1-2 from Nunes is going to be scored a little stronger than a 1-2 from Shevchenko.
But Shevchenko's face was clean afterwards.
You're being racist. It was a very good fight. It was a very, very good fight. The level of women fighting has come a long way, even in 2 or 3 years.
Yes.
It's come a long, long way. We're really starting to see those people who started out in kickboxing, Muay Thai, you know, even jiu-jitsu, starting to really make that, you know, serious impact.
Now let's move on from the big ladies to the smaller men. We had an amazing fight. Superfly, HBO highlighted 3 amazing fights at Superflyweight. The main event, Chocolatito Gonzalez versus Srisaket Rungvasai. What a crazy finish.
Get the bucket. He's washed, right? He's done. Damn, son, what a knockout. And it wasn't a flash knockout.
No.
It wasn't he caught him with that punch. No, you knew from about 2 minutes in, like, okay, there's one guy here to put something together, and there's one guy here trying to hold on.
Did he seem a little defeated walking into the ring?
Yes, absolutely.
There was
never a moment in that fight where he was in it.
Do you remember, I think you said this about MMA before, where like sometimes when you go through a war and you go back in, you don't want to go through it again.
Robbie Lawler, Johnny Hendricks, best example of all time. Johnny Hendricks, Robbie Lawler had fight of the year contender. They had a record for power shots in a UFC title fight. I think in any UFC fight.
Yeah.
They walk in for the second one, and you could tell Johnny just didn't want to be there. And it was because he had been through a war, and he knew from the moment he signed the contract, I'm going to have to take a lot of shots. I'm going to have to, get hurt a lot in this fight. I don't want to do this. It's hard to do that.
Yeah.
It's really hard. And Srisaket, he was very happy to do this.
Because one thing that you'll notice is Srisaket's Rungvasai can eat Chocolatito Gonzalez's punches all night long. They don't hurt him.
That was really, I think
But-
I called for Chocolatito to win this fight. I thought he would have power. He had no power.
But Chocolatito Gonzalez cannot handle Srisaket's Rungvasai. Let's not forget, he got dropped in the last fight.
Yeah, early.
Yeah.
I think first round. Very early.
And he had this look on his face like, fuck, I got to get back up and do this.
Yes, you do. And
Each
you have to do it
round,
again.
he had a look on his face like, God damn, I don't want to go back out there. And going into this fight, he felt the power. He knew what was going to happen. And it just... he did try. He did try, but...
Did he?
Yeah.
Is there... I've seen people starting to get spicy about, like, Chocolatito was never that good. Make America great again. America was never great. I think he was that good. Maybe the pound-for-pound rankings opened up a little bit with Andre Ward sitting out at the time and with Mayweather dropping out. So it was kind of a good time to be that little fighter who was beating the shit out of everybody. But he was that good.
He was never number one pound for pound, but he was definitely on the pound for pound list for a long time.
He was in my top 5 easily.
But you got to remember, he became champion and top of his division in 2008. True. So he's been fighting for a long time at a high level. It's funny because people are like, well, who'd he beat? I'm like, well, he beat this guy. Well, who that guy beat? I'm like, all right, if you don't know who these people are, then we could
shut up. You don't care.
Yeah, then we can't. It's not like I could say he beat Maidana. Like, that's way too many weight classes above. Yeah. So fame doesn't always mean skill. But by the time we reached him, I think the Arroyo fight was the fight that I was super judgmental and saw him slipping.
Yeah.
And I said this on this podcast. Yeah. I was like, he got hit way too many times. Like that Art of Movement YouTube video. None of that happened in the Arroyo fight, and none of that happened in the Quadras fight. Like,
sure as fuck didn't happen this weekend. The only movement was straight down, and he did not get back up.
And then you saw his big chubby girlfriend just run out like, oh no. Talk about opposites attract. She's tall, she's white skinned, and she's chubby.
He's trying to have them big babies.
Yeah, and
he's trying to make them big kids. Listen, I ain't having no 100-pound kids.
He's 125. He's chocolate, and he's little. Like, it's like weird to see like the two opposites. He's like, my kid's gonna be 5'6", goddammit.
Listen, it's just about getting a little further every time. It's just about getting a little further every time. We're not gonna be 6'4" yet, but we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. Yeah. Where does I guess we know where Srisaket goes next, actually. But we
don't know where he goes.
Doesn't he have to fight the winner of the other fight we're gonna talk about? One of the other fights.
One of the other fights, because here's the thing.
Because we have El Gallo Estrada versus Carlos Quadras,
which was a fantastic fight. I think
Beautiful
it was
fight of the weekend.
Yes.
Fight of the weekend.
It stole the show.
Absolutely.
Kinda stole the show.
Someone else may have stolen the show.
Yeah, someone else may have stolen the show, but we'll get back to that in a bit. This is a really close fight. And one of the things which do you think was a bigger fight? The fight between Quadras and Gallo Estrada, or Michael Buffer trying to distinguish them as two different people?
Racist moment saying they all look alike. Yeah, man, I've seen people like, oh no, he fucked one up, whatever. Because he said, what did he say? He said like El Gallo Quadras or whatever. It was something like that. Like he gave the wrong nickname for the wrong fighter.
No, he was like El Príncipe, Carlos Estrada.
Yeah, and it was just. Did he just say Eric Estrada won the fight? The Chips guy won? I didn't watch that fight. I didn't think I saw Chips fight. That was weird. Yeah, people are talking about like, oh, he fucked up once. He usually gets him right. Cut him some slack. He made like $100,000 to announce that. So
no, he gets paid $1 million a night.
Yeah, is it? Yeah, he's paid $1 million a night. So yeah, you get every single fucking one right when you get paid $1 million.
But I think the scorecard person messed up. But still, you should know the fighter.
Listen, you know, it's not that hard. I'm sorry. I know it's easy enough for me to judge from right here. I'll get the name right. Maybe I can't give it the full, hey, oh my God, isn't this so difficult? You could put anybody in there. I would never notice if they're doing a good or bad job unless they fuck up the name.
Do you remember when Nick Cannon was doing it?
Okay, I also noticed that Nick Cannon is doing a shitty job.
Nick Cannon called a boxing fight one time, and that was the last time they ever had to call it. He was saying stuff like, "Oh yeah, this is my dude," and little stuff like that in the middle of calling people.
There was once a
And yeah, and he is also the middle and heavyweight champion. Like there was a lot of him messing up like that.
Yeah. And a lot of just him agreeing with whatever was said.
Yeah.
What's that? Yeah, all lives matter, sure. Just whatever was said, he was going to agree with.
He wouldn't have gotten that opportunity if he wasn't banging Mariah Carey, by the way.
100%.
Yeah.
There was once a WWE event in the mid-90s where they had some like old football player calling play-by-play for him. The guy had never watched a single moment of professional
Steve Mongo
wrestling.
McMichaels.
No. I wish. It was for the WWF. Some guy named Art. I think he was a former... it's not Art Monk, but I think he was a Redskin. And it was literally just all night. He's like, that guy looks big. How big is he? How much does he weigh? That's weird. Damn, these guys are really hitting the shit out of each other. Like, he just kept swearing and stuff, and they had to, like, really get in his ear. This reminded me a little bit of that.
So, this is a close competitive fight.
Very close.
Could have gone either way. Who did you score for?
I did score it first. El Gallo. Estrada.
Yeah.
I think I had it, like, 114 to 113 with a knockdown in there. It was a very good fight. Want to go back and watch it. I've only watched it one time. I'm going to go back and watch it again just to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Not to score it or anything. It was just a very good fight. And Estrada looked great. Carlos Cuadras was just, won a lot of rounds. Well, I don't think he was able to win the fight. What do you think?
You know what? Estrada to me reminded me a lot of Marquez.
Ooh, interesting.
Very similar style. Because for sure pick it up a little sooner in the fight.
Yeah.
Because he looked like he was getting outboxed.
I have the same for sure.
But, like, it took him a while to download the data, but once he did, he came on real strong.
Yeah, and he didn't turn back.
Yeah. And then he started backing Cuadras, and then he was dictating the fight. But it took him a couple rounds to kind of build that out. And he was very poised. Even when he was behind in the scorecard, he was very poised.
If you have a fighter like that, can you, like, hit him with a 2x4 in the back? Like, get him up earlier, okay? Get him working.
One of the weird things, when he was down 4 rounds to none, did you notice that really awkward moment where Jim Lampley was like, he's been through struggles before when he was a kid. Both his parents were killed, and then his aunt, who was supposed to take care of him, was hit by a bus.
Jesus Christ. No, I didn't hear that.
So he's had struggle.
Commentary off.
Like
That's how I like to watch fights a lot of times.
me and my nephew, we didn't want to laugh, but we're like, why would you say it that way?
Jesus Christ. His girlfriend's cheating on him. He has no idea. It's really bad. Nobody tell him. It's really... She lets so many dudes just rail her out all the time. He's gonna get food poisoning in like 2 weeks. He's gonna fucking hate it. Like, he just keeps dropping very personal information.
It was one of those, like, how does this make me know more about the fighters? Like, how does this... And it was like, yeah, if you can overcome that, you can overcome anything. 4 rounds to 0, that's what you want to bring up?
Damn, son.
But I had it for Estrada. I thought it could have gone either
He
way.
made a great comeback against that bus that hit his aunt. He was able to really stage a late comeback against...
That was a tough hit by Cuadras. It was a hard hit, but not as hard a hit as the one that the bus hit his aunt. That's what you get for trying to raise the little bastard.
He, like, looks over. I can hear you. You're not as quiet as you think. Please be nice to me. I'm fighting very hard.
Did you know the Mexican can speak English? I thought he didn't speak this language.
My dad didn't think he spoke any English. I really am so sorry. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Thank you. I appreciate it. It was a very hard time for me as a child. That's what was fucking him up, is he just kept hearing all this shit. That's why he kept losing rounds, is he'd be in the middle of the rounds like, this motherfucker is still talking about my aunt getting hit by that bus. Can you shut up I'm trying to fight the fight.
Crazy.
Stupid.
But you know what? He's got a right to fight Srisaket Rungvasai now.
Absolutely. He is the mandatory, I believe.
Yeah. He's the mandatory. But, of course, in boxing, you
Mandatory
can
is a
choose.
suggestion.
Yeah. You could choose to unify if you don't want to fight your mandatory. And Srisaket would have to unify against Japan's own, the monster, Naoya
Underground
Inoue.
King.
Yes.
Recognize. Inoue, who looked so good. Damn, This kid can hit hard.
Great combinations, great power.
Speed. I loved his speed
Yes.
all night. He never wound up, which I loved. Maybe a couple of times by the end he was starting to wind up. But he was just walking him down by the end of this fight. But he kept the combinations. He kept to the game plan until he was just so in control. He may as well have been leading him around on a leash.
Yes.
And Nieves, tough guy, but Jesus, he took a beating in this fight.
I thought that it was really cool that the CEO of PNC is going to give him a great position and giving him a promotion, win, lose, or draw in the fight. Do you think he bet against them?
Conspiracy theories.
Because one like this, if I think that you're going to win and become this famous boxer, I'm not going to be like, hey, no matter what happens, you're getting a promotion.
That's a really good
Yes.
point. Hey, no matter what happens, your job is safe here. Like, that is not a vote of confidence by any means. And it should not have been, because he got his ass whooped in this fight. And corner stoppage. Good corner stoppage. More corners need to do this.
I thought it was interesting. Did you see when the doctor came in there? The doctor's like, hey, man, we're thinking about stopping it. And
Don't be mad pussy. Keep like,
yeah,
doctors.
his coach / dad was like, hey, don't worry, I'm thinking about stopping it too. And then the ref is like, are we going to stop this? It was like 3 people thought about that the round before.
Yeah, right there. I'd be like, what are you guys talking about? This fight's going great. Like, he didn't realize how bad it was going. Oh, shit, I must be losing.
By the way, I also thought the Chocolatito fight was, they could have stopped that after the first knockdown.
Disagree. I'm happy it kept going. I feel like if it stopped after the first one, I would be sitting here a little disappointed. I think Chocolatito, especially because this is going to be the end of Chocolatito's run, pretty much. He's never going to hit these highs again. He deserves the chance
to have a definite loss.
To really have that loss. So we're not looking back. Of course, he might say differently when he's stuttering in 8 years. But for now, we're feeling... Did you, by the way, see Mark Hunt? Mark Hunt said, like, oh, yeah, I'm already, like, stuttering and forgetting shit. Fucked up.
Yeah.
Protect your heads, guys.
If you have guys ever want to go on Google and see a cringeworthy battle between 2 Samoans, look up Mark Hunt versus Ray Sefo in K1, and 100% you're going to be stuttering. You can't take blows like that.
Because people are just like, oh, yeah, his MMA career. His kickboxing career was the same.
It was
not
crazy.
Worse.
Yeah, it was insanity.
So I'm 100% believing that Mark Hunt... His biggest battles, against Ray Sefo and those guys, he took a lot of beatings in the UFC, and for sure later on, his hardest battles will be against a bowl of noodles.
Inoue,
thank you for.
I think was the absolute star of the night, even though Chocolatito lost.
I gave it to Rungvasai still, just for the emphatic over Chocolatito, former pound for pound guy. But yeah, Inoue is that guy that he's almost like the Intercontinental Champion of the division right now. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like the up and coming.
Who do you think Srisaket or Rungvasai should fight next?
I think he should go with El Gallo. I think it's going to get a little bit more money on that. And I think Inoue, not really a big name. Maybe if Japan was a big market, that would be cool.
Actually, Inoue is a big star in Japan. He's the #1 boxer in Japan.
Jesse, there's no reason to make me look like an idiot after I just said that was not the case.
Because,
Jesse, I need you to agree with me.
He actually took a pay cut to come to America.
Jesse.
Because he wants to be international.
Jesse, we're recording this. Please, I'm gonna look dumb. I said Japan didn't have a big boxing market. Actually, last week we were talking about Japan's on the rise.
Coming up. It's coming up. Yeah.
Coming up.
One of the big things about if he fights against Inoue is the fact that
Jesse. Okay, continue.
There's a massive rivalry between Japanese combat sports and Thailandese combat sports. Thai. There you go. Thai combat sports. It's been a long history that dates back to Muay Thai versus karate. And even in terms of boxing...
I know which one won.
Yes.
Bet I can guess which one took over on that. Muay Thai versus karate.
Yeah, there were so many...
Here's a hint. We teach one of them to children for fun.
And Muay Thai...
Although, there is some children's Muay Thai that is very impressive. I have seen some fights online, some just clips. There are some kids that are fucking beasts at Muay Thai. But I would be very interested to see them later on.
And in boxing, there's been a huge rivalry between Thailand and Japan. It's almost like the Puerto Rico and Mexico rivalry for Latinos. And Srisaket Rungvasai has officially become the #1 boxer in Thailand.
Great? We know who the Puerto Ricans are of this. Like, we know exactly what the dynamic is. Everybody listening, take a second. Of Japan and Thailand, which one is the Puerto Rico? You're right.
So Srisaket Rungvasai was actually, I don't know if you saw his post-fight interview, the picture of the king was being shown behind him. There's a portrait of the king.
Jerry Lawler?
The Thai king. And the reason that was there is because the Thai king took him out of the province that he was living in and put him in, like, they gave him money to train. They've been sponsoring him. So now he's the #1 most beloved fighter in Thailand. Well, boxer, not Muay Thai, but boxer. Because his win over Chocolatito was the biggest international boxing victory of a Thai fighter. So that would be a huge fight. But the thing is, in America, it wouldn't sell.
True. Yeah, I mean, these guys are under 130 pounds. Nothing is going to sell.
And
Look at
actually-
Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford doesn't even sell.
And I think that in America, the Estrada fight would be a bigger fight just because of the Mexican following.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I said like 10 minutes ago, and you called me an idiot.
No, but I think the overall more money is with Inoue. But if you want to put it on HBO,
Which they're going to.
yeah, should be great. Should be great.
Wait, so am I an idiot or not? I don't even know anymore.
It's going to be a judgment call for his
For
handlers.
on whether or not I'm an idiot? It's going to be a judgment call? You dick.
Did you see that there is now a new youngest boxing champion?
Apparently not, because I'm an idiot. Yeah, David Benavidez.
Fantastic. For those that don't know, David Benavidez,
Taking over for Fat Boy from Baltimore,
Gervonta Davis.
Gervonta Davis, who unimpressed me so much in his last fight that I forgot his name just now.
David Benavidez
Davis.
had one of the greatest combination knockout KOs of the year when he knocked out Porky Medina, who went life and death against James DeGale, but then got destroyed by some 19-year-old that we had never heard of. Well, now he is the champion. The way that this happened is when Badu Jack vacated his belt to move up to light heavyweight, it became vacant and they ordered David Benavidez after his victory over Medina to fight against
Funky Cool Medina, yeah.
Yeah, against Anthony Durrell. But Anthony Durrell pulled out, and we ended up having this fight of the year contender, an amazing fight against
Ronald Gavro.
yeah, who's a Mayweather fighter, and he has a very good amateur career, but has been kind of like very slow pace in terms of his handling as a professional fighter because he's a little bit older. He's like 30, 31 years old. And it was a close fight. He actually dropped David Benavidez in the fight.
I haven't seen this. If
Yeah.
it's a fight of the year, I'm gonna go check it out.
It's a great fight, but definitely David Benavidez won. There's no one's
Sure.
sitting here saying Benavidez lost the fight. He definitely deserved the victory.
Do you want to see more out of Gavro moving forward, or is it kind of This is kind of his contribution to the sport, right? He had a
Yeah.
great fight against David Benavidez, who's very young and exciting.
He-
He'll be a cool footnote later on.
Yes.
But this is not his.
This is not
he's
his
not
thing.
that guy.
Benavidez,
Benavidez could be that guy.
yeah. Who would you put him up against next? Would you try to see if we can schedule him against DeGale? Who would you be most excited to see his style fight against?
eBay.
Because Badu Jack has left the division. I mean, super middleweight is tied up a lot with that World Boxing Super Series. So he's kind of left out a lot. He's kind of left out in the cold a little bit. Who would you try to see if you could move him up to like heavyweight? Maybe not yet.
I wouldn't move him up. Did he look big? Because I haven't really even gotten eyes on this guy. So was he a biggin? Was he a big boy?
No,
Are we
he's
talking
tall
a-
and lanky.
Are we talking a thick boy, which you've gotten mad at me before for saying?
He's thick and lanky. He's thick and lanky, combination puncher. He's this new group of young guys like Eric Lubin who decided not to go to the Olympics but rather go pro.
Sir, Erickson Lubin.
Oh, yes.
Get it right. Get it fucking right. I wouldn't try to throw him in immediately with the James DeGales. Probably maybe like a George Groves type.
Groves is tied up with the tournament.
God damn it. What's homeboy's name? Jose Uzakataki? What the fuck's the guy's name? I only ever see it written.
Oh, Zukateki.
Yeah, that guy. The Venezuelan.
Yeah, that'd be a great fight.
That'd be a great fight.
That'd be a fantastic
I
fight.
only ever see that guy's name written. I apologize. I can spell it. It's UZT.
For those that don't know, that's the guy who's fighting against Andre Durrell. And then after, and Andre Durrell's uncle came in there and punched him bare fist in the face and caused almost a damn near riot. Thank you for bringing that into the MGM in DC. Now DC looks fantastic. Thank you.
Chocolate City, baby. Chris Eubank Jr. Is he in the Super Series?
Yes, he's in the Super Series.
Damn.
Everyone's tied up in that tournament.
I love Eubank Jr.
Yeah.
I hope he wins it. He won't. Probably. He could, but he probably won't. But I want him to.
Oh man, him versus the guy you mentioned earlier, who was at
Groves?
Groves. That'd be a fantastic
That'd
fight.
be really good, right?
Yeah.
How good would that be?
Yeah,
Love it.
that'd be fantastic. And you got Callum Smith in there.
Yeah. Shit, those are really good Super Series.
Yeah.
Got like half the top 10.
So we covered that. Usyk,
Real quick, there's one more recap. I think.
Rafael dos Anjos
Yeah.
versus Neo Magny.
Neil Magny cannot stop a fucking takedown. He can. That's unfair. But it really seems like these like stout Brazilian black belts are just his utter kryptonite.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because everybody else he does great against. Even guys like Kelvin Gastelum had huge problems taking down Neil Magny all night long. But for some reason, when guys like Damian Maia and when guys like Rafael Dos Anjos get in there, they can get in on that double, they can take him down and get to that submission quick. And he, as a jiu-jitsu guy, he made a lot of jiu-jitsu mistakes in that fight. I understand you're in there with a very good murderer black belt, but at least roll the right way on the fucking arm triangle.
Yes.
Come on. If somebody hits an arm triangle on you, it better have been... This wasn't even that slick. He just left his elbow out and caught it trapped. Come on, guys. What are we doing? Neil Magny's grappling coach. As big a mistake as... Do you want a real quick talk? Jon Jones.
Yes.
I know you do. Jon Jones, B sample. Hot. Positive. He's out. He's ultra fucked. All of Jon Jones's eggs were in this basket.
Did you hear the rumor of them potentially seeing if Brock Lesnar and Jon Jones could fight in pro wrestling?
I haven't heard that, but I bet it's true.
Oh.
I'm into it.
I think it'd be great. I think that's a good way out of it. I think if
may
you
as well, right?
Yeah.
You fucking may as well.
4 years out of the sport, just make it happen there.
And when he comes back, 35 and, hasn't really fought in 8 years at that point. He's had, 1 or 2 fights in a decade. Jon Jones, if this goes through and he catches that 4-year suspension, which I think he will. I've heard people, Brendan Schaub said 3 years maybe. I think he's catching a full 4. I don't see any reason to cut Jon Jones any slack. Do you?
No.
Would you cut him any slack? I wouldn't. It's done. This is his 3rd or 4th positive test, not counting the time when he got coked up and hit a pregnant lady with his car. The guy he's made his bed, now he's going to lie in it.
So do we take him off the greatest fighter of all time?
Yeah. How do you not?
Who do you put in there now?
They put in drug testing, and he immediately popped positive every single time. Every single time. I think he passed 1 drug test.
And that's when he looked bad.
And he looked utterly terrible. That is not that fight against Ovince St. Preux, that is not a Jon Jones that goes in there and wins that 5-round war with Alexander Gustafsson. That's not a guy who can go in there and beat Daniel Cormier once by knockout. That's not a guy who can make Mauricio Shogun Rua look like a fucking joke. That's not who that guy is. He can't do that. The big, coked up, roided up version of Jon Jones, that guy can. Absolutely. We saw it. But that's who that was. Greatest fighter of all time, give me GSP.
Over Anderson Silva?
Yeah. Fucked up. Just for how... there was always, with Anderson, that thought of man, if we could just get a really, really good wrestler to take it to Anderson.
Well, the one thing about Anderson Silva, and I'm probably going to get heat for this, I thought his division wasn't that good.
It's
not his fault, though.
And I've thought that about other guys. Looking back at Chuck Liddell's run, it wasn't that hot, right? He beat Pablo Sobral, he beat Jeremy Horn, he beat Randy Couture, he beat a lot of grapplers. He didn't beat that many strikers, if any. Maybe Vernon White, if you want to call Vernon White a striking specialist.
Man, he almost lost to Overeem.
He almost lost to Overeem. He had trouble with Vernon White. Vernon White, I remember after the fight, was like, damn, if I could just had a little bit more head movement and power. Sure enough, here comes Rampage, head movement and power, puts Liddell out in 2 minutes.
Overeem, I thought that he was going to wipe him out in that first round. I can't remember what turned it. My friend was always like, it almost looked like he called for the finish.
Yeah, right? Honestly, would you be amazed if Dana White, who was sitting ringside, slipped a little, here's $20K?
Yeah, just get knocked out over him.
So here's $20K, make it happen. Crazier things have happened.
Yeah.
We've both seen crazier things. So yeah, I have to take Jon Jones off the top pound for pound. He's out of my greatest fighter of all time, right?
It's too hard for me to take him off. I think I just saw him.
Is it as hard as Jon Jones on those CVS dick pills that he keeps blaming all his drug tests on?
I just saw him do amazing things in there. Roids, I can see that.
I feel so bad for Daniel Cormier.
You know what I'll call him? I'll call him the Lance Armstrong.
He really is. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. He is the Lance Armstrong of MMA. I feel so bad for Daniel Cormier. Because this is a guy who has only ever done things the right way. You know what I mean? He has passed every drug test he's ever been given in his life. And no one is accusing Daniel Cormier of using steroids. He's on cake and chicken. He is not on anything anabolic. And I just he still catches heat. And now he's going to be a quote-unquote fake champion again. Even though he's not. The other guy, Jon Jones, disqualified himself by taking that steroid.
Wait, am I right on this? But I heard that Oezdemir, Vulcan Oezdemir is going to fight against Gustafsson for the vacant belt.
No, Cormier's the champ again.
Oh, that's so
Cormier
weird.
got shipped the belt. They gave him back the belt.
That's so weird.
He was the champion. It's like if Jon Jones missed weight or threw an illegal kick or a groin shot in the fight. You know what I mean? It's the same level of disqualification. He loses the fight.
How do you market that?
Tough. I don't know. You don't. For the UFC, honestly, you may as well put this division on hold until a new crop of fighters come in.
Yeah.
It's really going to be that much. It's going to have to be a new crop of fighters, and there's going to have to be one guy we say, maybe that guy could have beaten Jon Jones.
That's one of the weird things that's happening with MMA right now is nobody's coming up.
Yeah, besides Oezdemir, who is still, there's things to prove there, who is the guy at 205 that's next? It was OSP for a second. It's not anymore.
Let's compare boxing and MMA real quick. At heavyweight, who are you excited about as a new up-and-comer at heavyweight and MMA?
Francis Ngannou. That's kind of it. Maybe, and he's not even really an up-and-comer because we've seen so much from him, but Alexander Volkov, I'm excited to see how far he can go in the UFC. It's kind of it. It's really only those two.
And then in boxing, we're talking about Deontay Wilder. We're talking about Joshua.
There's a couple of wrestling prospects, but they have one or two fights maybe. So throw them out.
We're talking about Huey Fury. We're talking about Parker. We're talking about that Gerald Miller.
Are you ready to hear some fucking disrespect?
Yeah.
You're going to laugh at this. We're recording this Thursday night. It's going to drop Friday, right?
Yeah.
Currently, and you can take a look at this, on the light heavyweight rankings on UFC.com, they have, for every other division, they have champion and then 1 through 15, right? For light heavyweight, they have at number 1, Alexander Gustafsson. Number 2, Volkan Oezdemir. Number 3, Glover Teixeira. All the way down, right? They have Daniel Cormier as above Alexander Gustafsson, number 0. Even though he is the champion of the division. They have a 0 next to his name. The disrespect you are showing to an Olympic medalist. Actually, I don't think he was an Olympic medalist. I know he wasn't. He's a world medalist wrestler. 2-time UFC light heavyweight champion. Heavyweight Strikeforce Grand Prix champion. This man is one of the best fighters of all time. The disrespect to have a 0 next to that name. How dare you? How dare you?
Okay, up-and-coming guy at light heavyweight.
None. Who? Corey Anderson? Pass. Oezdemir is really it.
Boxing, we got Vazic, we got Berderbiev, we got who's would you still consider Sullivan Barrera an up-and-comer?
No, he's 38.
Okay, Joe Smith Jr. up-and-comer?
Yeah, same problem.
Okay.
Yeah, same problem.
But we got some motion.
There's blood. If they were in MMA, for sure they'd be an up-and-comer.
Yeah.
But
you got that Colombian kid, Alvarez, Alito Alvarez.
Yeah, there's people on this top 15 UFC list. I've never heard of them. You know what I mean?
Middleweight?
At the UFC? Kelvin, I guess. Kelvin Gastelum. Yeah. That's really it.
And then in boxing, we got Eubank, Billy Joe Saunders as up-and-comers. You got a few up-and-comers. I mean, Canelo's up-and-comer age, but he's accomplished so much already.
Yeah. There's a couple of welterweight for the UFC. I'll give him Colby Covington, Santiago Ponzinibbio. There's a couple.
And to be honest, I feel like middleweight is actually kind of losing. Like, I feel like they have their stars. I don't see anyone coming down them. Oh, Charlo.
Yeah, there you go.
Charlo's like the new up-and-coming guy.
Okay, we get it. Boxing has the up-and-comers.
Yeah.
MMA needs to turn something around real quick. And it's going to take retirements, honestly. It's going to take some of these older guys dropping out of the divisions. Mark Hunt, why are you fighting? You have CTE. We all know it. You know it. You admitted it.
What do you think is causing us not to get the influx that we're getting in like 2010?
Money. There's no money. Why would you, if you had a kid who you knew he was a can't miss prospect in either boxing or MMA, I would send them to boxing every day of the week for the money. If I know that somebody's going to be top 5 in either MMA or boxing, the top 5 guys in MMA are still making what, 30 and 30 for a fight?
Yeah.
A lot of times, unless you're the number 1 champion, and even then some of the champions make dog shit money. They do not make good money. And their window is not great. I would go to boxing every day. You can make more in boxing in a year than you make in a career as an elite MMA fighter. Never in a million years. Especially with the Reebok deal. Fuck out of here.
Okay. I still think it depends on which division, though.
Yeah.
There's some divisions in boxing where people just pretend don't exist.
Yeah, that's fair. That is fair. No, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. And we're seeing a lot of those. They do have up-and-comers, and that pipeline is being fed a lot by wrestlers. especially
Yeah.
those lighter weight classes where guys have wrestled their entire lives. Interesting. Food for
I
thought.
personally hope that MMA has a resurgence and there's a way that it can come back. Hopefully Bellator is that way of making that happen. But we need more exciting people. We need better prospects, and we need like I feel like there's less fan interest than there used to be.
Absolutely there is. It's not cool anymore. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's not like the new trendy number one thing. Before we get out of here, there's one important thing we need to do. Which is to say, Jesse Rivas, there's one important thing you need to do. Tell me I was fucking right about Gilbert Melendez. Tell me I was fucking right about Gilbert El Nino Melendez. He looked like shit.
Well, he's been past his prime for a long time.
Okay, where was this last week when you were predicting him to win?
Who do you fight?
Jeremy Stevens. And Jeremy Stevens...
No, I picked Jeremy Stevens to win.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Remember I said he's like that girl who like that guy who like treats me wrong and like fucks up all the time and I keep giving him second shots.
Jeremy Stevens won like 30 to 25. It was a
Yeah.
total ass beat. Did you see his leg after?
No.
Gilbert Melendez? I'll send you a photo of it. It's like 3 times the size of his other legs. He looks like he has gout. Like, that's
But
how
to
bad
be
he was.
fair, to his credit, Kerry Melendez's girl is kind of hot. So big
True.
props. Big props. He picked a good one.
I think we saw the last fight of Gilbert Melendez. Real talk. Do you have anything else for the week, Mr. Jesse Rivas?
Nope, that's it for
Put
me.
yourself over.
Follow me on social media, Jerry Rivas Comedy on Instagram and Twitter, and Jesse Rivas on Facebook.
Joseph M. Gilpin Instagram, Bad Tweetist on Twitter. Find us, find the show, listen to the show, tell your friends. For all of us here at the Fighters Block, so many exciting fights to watch this weekend. Canelo, Triple G, get into it. We'll talk about it all here next week here on The Block.